There are two basic approaches you can adopt when you think about the role of technology in society. One is known as technological determinism, and the other one is known as the social construction of technology. So, technological determinism means that the technology determines the outcome, hence the name technological determinism. So, for example, when somebody says, the internet implies freedom and democracy. So the internet is inherently good. That means that the internet determines the outcome. It's good. It implies freedom and democracy. Uh, what is also technological determinism is if somebody would say the internet implies an informational dictatorship, total control, complete surveillance. The internet is inherently bad. That also means that the technology determines the outcome. Actually, the oldest vision of the information society was not presented or elaborated by some kind of academic or an entrepreneur or something. It was written out by a novelist, George Orwell, who in 1948 wrote a book called 1984, where he painted a very bleak picture about an informational dictatorship. And by now, some people say, with many secret services, almost all secret services around the world, employing thousands of computer scientists and mathematicians to do surveillance work, some people say, well, the internet maybe is inherently bad. What we have to be aware is that that is also technological determinism. Now, as you can see here, how can the internet at the same time be good and bad? How can it at the same time imply democracy and an informational dictatorship? Well, the truth is more that technology is inherently neither good nor bad. That's why a social constructionist then would argue that technology has different outcomes, and these outcomes have to be socially constructed. They have to be chosen in a proactive way. Technology is just a tool. Think about the hammer. A hammer is also just a tool. Now, a hammer can be extremely useful. You couldn't build a house, or you couldn't even hang up a picture with something that is at least equivalent to a hammer. But everything that is functionally equivalent to a hammer can also be used to hurt other people or even kill them. Now, is this the fault of the hammer? No, the hammer is not inherently good or bad. The hammer is just a tool. And there are many discussions like this going on with regard to technology. For example, some people say that guns don't kill people. People kill people. So it's a social choice, the choice of individual to use guns for this or for another purpose. For example, for hunting. The atomic bomb is another example. Some people might say, well, the goal of producing as many atomic bombs that we have as we have right now on Earth, is to destroy the Earth. Therefore, technologically, deterministically, inevitably, atomic bombs will destroy the Earth. Well, at least for the last 60, 70 years, we did a pretty decent job in preventing this technological determinism. So there seems to be a role for social choice, for social construction. But these last two examples, guns and bombs, also show you that while technology might not be inherently good or bad, they might also not be neutral. Guns are made to shoot things, and bombs are made to blow things up. So technology is neither good nor bad, nor is it neutral. Well, this is more a philosophical statement, and you would always wish that philosophers would tell you it's black or white, but they never do. They tell you it's not this and not that, but it's also not. But that's how it is. It makes intuitively sense, right? So the result of that story is that we shape our tools, and our tools then also shape us. It is very important that we start to understand this difference, because we often catch ourselves in newspapers and political statements and business strategies are full of technologically deterministic statements. I often catch myself saying things like digitalization implies efficiency. Now, of course, you cannot qualify every statement because it only implies efficiency if in this case and in that case, that you couldn't have a conversation if you would have to qualify every statement. So sometimes we say technologically deterministic. things, but we just have to recognize that actually technology and digitalization does not imply necessarily efficiency. Digitalization can make you extremely inefficient as well. So we just have to not take these statements by face value and recognize them for what they are. Because by doing that, we also understand that actually we have a social responsibility to shape, for example, the digital revolution. It is a process of social construction. So digitalization by itself doesn't have a predetermined outcome. It is on us. The responsibility is with our generation to assure that digitalization is used for the benefit of society.
Evening, everybody. Y'all having fun yet? Yeah. How great were those first two talks? Can we give it up for these guys? So I'm a little bit nervous here, but I'm here tonight to tell you about technology. And I'm here to tell you that better technology doesn't always win. And that's awesome. And that's as important, and you should care about that. But to do about that, I got to talk about STS first. Science and Technology Studies. And so we're going to talk about science and technology studies. And what does that mean? Because it sounds like a great little buzzword you'd put in your sweet presentation. And so we get to talk about sociology, sociology of technology, history of technology, and philosophy of technology. First, we're going to talk about the old, technological determinism. Evil technological determinism, which says that humanity has no control over the technology that it creates. But, as William Gibson says, the street will find its own uses for things. And so you can use your sweet beat-up washer as an awesome chicken coop. Because that's a great thing to do. And so we can talk a little bit about the problem with technological determinism. There's no accounting for people. There's no accounting for the agency that people bring to the technological discussion and that groups of people can bring to that process. So battles between technological systems exist, and we deal with them every day. One of the most famous is up on that screen. You recognize the logo on the left? Of course you don't. It's Betamax. It didn't make it out. And so it was one of those places where, I was going to say, most of the people in the room didn't get that joke because they're under 25. So it's good for us old people to talk about these things. So we got to talk about the relevant social groups in any given player. You've got to talk about the makers and the inventors, but then you've also got to talk about the users. You've got to talk about the people whose problems you're solving with your technology. And then you've also got to talk about the interpretative flexibility, which is one of those big, huge words that means we got to figure out what the problem is that we're solving, and then we got to solve it. And we got to figure out which solutions out there make for the best solutions, because they're not all equal. And then at the end, we get to choose a winner, and that's what making conclusions are. And so we've kind of stepped through in examining the social groups that are at play. We've got to determine which problems we solve and then make a decision as a society. And we do that through markets, we do that through participation, and we do that through social media even. And it's fantastic to see it. So how do we use this framework? And this is my one slide that I cheated on because I used it twice. And we get to talk about what do we do with this framework for examining technological systems. We get to identify and assess the social groups. That's the biggest, hugest part of the social construction of technology. You have to figure out who's your market. You got to figure out who's using your technology. And better, what are they using it for? If you're a dryer manufacturer and you've got a huge subset of your population solving their problems and by using their dryers as chicken coops, then you've got to come up with what the use is for your technology and focus on that structure. And so we have to define the problem before we can define the solution. And that kind of steps us back a little bit into an earlier slide where I talked about the logo that no one recognized. Because it's a point where Betamax had a long, full life long after it stopped being Betamax, because their build quality was higher and their image fidelity was tremendous. Any of the original Betamax players out there are probably still working today, not because there aren't any more tapes for them, but really it's just a matter of they were fantastically made. And so the loss of your one market isn't the end of your technology. Betamax goes on to become Betacam SP, which if any of you have ever been to a television studio, you have seen row upon row upon row of phenomenally expensive Betacam SP decks and Digibeta decks, And now, HD cam decks, that's what's in the broadcast world. They rewrote their solution. They reframed the problem. They figured that the problem was people wanted cheap solutions for their home use, but they wanted a better solution for their technology at the broadcast level. And so those competing narratives that exist there are important. So we need to talk also about systems that win. Twitter is a phenomenally good example here. I can see that everyone's reading as fast as they can. But at that point, every feature that's in Twitter right now is socially constructed. It was built by the community and then canonized. So that's why it beat